This might look like an ordinary Spirit of 76, but in fact it's one that I made from scratch. As a standard coin door without any coin slots, so everything is free play. But the construction is a copy of what the originals used. This is a leg I make. It's tapered, looks a bit better than just the straight up and down ones. There's an M10 riv nut at the bottom so we can use locally sourced adjustable feet. And the hole spacing is compatible with the original machine, so we can use these legs on older machines. For leg bolts I use M10 socket head cap screws that go through with T-nuts on the inside, so if you strip one of them it's just a matter of changing a T-nut. On the original machine the top arc was just a plain white metal sheet. On this one we've added some graphics just to bling it a bit, and I really like the way that came out. I use a Bally style stainless steel rail for a top arc guide instead of a plate that wears out. And this one won't wear out in a hurry because that stainless is quite hard, but if it does you just replace one little rod. And then my drop target units, I had to mess with them quite a bit to get them running properly, but I'm very happy with them now, and they're easy to maintain. You unhook the spring and you pull the drop target out to the top. You don't need to disassemble the target unit or anything. The apron is one piece, so we have the shooter guide and the apron, and on this apron I've, instead of using cards, I just printed the rule set straight on here with my logo. It doesn't have the free play scores because it's not applicable in this case. Wooden rails. I think the original rails just used maple strips, but these are the same 12mm birch ply that I use for the playfield. So as far as the playfield goes, it's also printed on and then clear coated. The fonts are not exactly the same, but it's a font that works, or a typeface for you graphics nerds. I've got a special lock miter bit to do the join between here and here. It just makes sure that when the boards come together, they come together properly, and you only need to clamp it in that direction. Side rails made locally, I have my logo cut in. They're done with screws, so you can take them off if you need to. Back box is also printed before assembly, and it's a pain in the ass, but it's a lot nicer than having to stencil it afterwards, because on stencils I don't have the skill to do that with an airbrush, but on a printer that's trivial. Let me show you under the playfield. So nothing strange here except that a normal Spirit of 76 will have a whole lot of stuff in there. So what we have here is just the two power supplies with a nice cover, so that whatever debris we're getting dropping out of the playfield won't get into the power supply fans and onto the boards. That's the playfield underneath. These are almost standard Bally 70s style flipper units. I have an adjustable bracket for the end of stroke switch, and there's an adjustable flipper stop at that side. This is a switch bracket that I put together myself, and these are just little LED boards. It's just one single white LED on a board with a resistor that runs on 12 volts. So there are no 6 volt lamps in this thing whatsoever. Even these lamps that go through to the top, which I prefer to use incandescents because they look better, are 12 volt lamps, but they go on the standard bayonet socket. And these are just little carrier boards and stand-off, so I can mount them at the right height. These are new, they are my own. They're drop target cassettes. And to fiddle with the drop targets on these is very easy, because you just unhook the drop target spring and you pull it out. You don't have to disassemble the unit, you don't have to unscrew it. The target switches are sitting on a little board here, and they're also micro switches that when the drop target goes down, it pushes on the switch. It's as simple as that. What I'd like to do is to change that drop target. So it's a matter of lifting the playfield, unhooking the spring, and pulling out the target. Replacing a target is the exact reverse process. These little switches I make myself. I'm lucky to have a laser cutter, so I can cut what's it known as in the States? It's acrylic. In South Africa it's called perspex or plexiglass. But these switches run off little tiny micro switches, so they don't get dirty, and they have a million switch lifetime, blah blah blah. They don't wear out, they're easy to adjust, and they're very soft, so you can let the ball go pretty much just above the switch and it will roll over and still trip the switch. To adjust the switches, when you install them, you just push them forward, and there's a little bit of resistance there on the switch, and then you just press down on the switch until the top of the switch goes to the right level below the playfield. And that one's adjusted. So you just press it down again and that's it, done. So here you can see the star rollover. Also just sits on a little bracket that I've made so that you can adjust the angle of the switch. You can bend the blade as well for fine tuning. But that's how the stars go, and then they have a little LED that sits in there to light up the stars, because they need to, of course. These are the displays. Make a little cover for them so the digits are more readable. And it's not because I'm using grey digits, it's because the difference between an element that's on and an element that's off is harder to see, even with a black face on the digits. But with these shields, they come out like I make those shields for my displays with a pin score as well, because pin score has the same issue. Pin score uses digits with black paint instead of grey paint, but you have the same issue. So those are the displays. Let me show you inside. Inside the back box, this is what you get, because this is what you need. There's a main CPU board. It's running an 8-bit micro running at 16 megahertz at the moment. It's far better than what they used to use in the 70s for their electromechanicals. And because it's the rule set is, well, it's an electromechanical rule set, so to implement that on a little micro like that is trivial. This is the cable that takes the comms and the power to all the other boards. These are my LED driver boards. These lines go to the playfield, those go to the back box. Solenoid driver with FETs that can do the same as tip 36Cs, so you can do flippers with them if you want to. And the power supply board that takes power from the power supplies or transformers, depending on what you want or what you have, and converts it to the voltages that we need. Because it's modular, we can change any one of these boards and without influencing the rest of the system. The problem is, because it's modular, you need to program each board. Each board has a micro for communications and for doing its own thing. Distributed computing, as they say. Like if I want to ring a bell, all I need to do is send the number of the bell down to coil, down to the coil driver. The coil driver will do it on its own, and the main CPU can do game logic and reading switches as fast as it can, because that's what it's there for. So that's the inside of the board. Behind the displays, it's pretty much the same thing, same bus, same architecture. These display boards are almost the same. Well, logically they're the same as my LED driver boards, except that for these the LEDs are on board. So it uses the same software, the same microprocessor, the same everything. Alright, before I start the game up, let's just talk about the back glass for a second. I had to modify the windows for the shape and size of the displays, and because they're smaller, there's a big empty space in the middle, so I put in an extra rocket there. On the two-player version of Spirit called Pioneer, there's a rocket, but a massive one. And I thought it was a nice element to use on this machine, because it fits aesthetically and physically. So this is also digitally printed on glass. It comes with a back mask. This black mask isn't quite as opaque as the silver that we used to get from the standard machines. And then I have light guides cut from polystyrene foam that I've just mounted to the back of the glass to make sure that the light doesn't bleed over from the one light to the next. That's the back glass. Let's play a game.